All right, let's dive into one of the most pivotal, most debated moments in all of American history, the New Deal. Now, this wasn't just some collection of government programs. It was a massive response to a national catastrophe, and it ended up reshaping the country in ways we are still arguing about today.
Just let that sink in for a second. Imagine your job is gone, your family's entire life savings vanished overnight, and there is absolutely nothing, no safety net, to catch you. For millions of Americans in the 1930s, this wasn't a thought experiment. It was their terrifying reality. And it set the stage for a truly dramatic change. Because before this, the idea of the federal government stepping in to directly help people, well, that was pretty much unthinkable.
So that huge shift, right, going from a government that mostly stays out of the way to one that's involved in everything, it raises a really fundamental question about what America is all about.
This is the big one. And you got to notice the key phrase here. To what extent? We're not looking for a simple yes or no answer. This question is all about the nuance. It forces us to ask, was this a temporary patch for an emergency, or was it a truly lasting, fundamental change in the DNA of American government?
To really wrap our heads around just how huge this transformation was, we have to rewind the clock a bit. We need to look at what came right before it all came crashing down. On the surface, the Roaring '20s looked pretty great, right? After the chaos of World War I, the country was craving a return to normalcy. You had all these new technologies, cars, radios popping up everywhere, a whole new culture of consumerism took hold, and it really felt like the good times were never going to end.
But if you scratched beneath that glittering surface, the nation was actually incredibly fragile. You had massive economic inequality, horrific racial violence, and these really fierce cultural battles raging over everything from religion to science. These weren't just small issues. They were deep, dangerous cracks in the foundation of the country.
And when the stock market crashed in 1929, those cracks didn't just break, the whole structure just shattered. It plunged the U.S. into the worst economic crisis it had ever seen, and created a desperate need for a completely new playbook.
And this is absolutely crucial to understand. The Great Depression wasn't just a bad recession. It was a total systemic failure. With very few rules for the banks or the stock market, the whole economic structure was basically a house of cards. And it demanded a response that was unlike anything America had ever tried before.
So enter the New Deal. Under Franklin D. Roosevelt, the federal government jumped into the ring like never before. It created jobs out of thin air with programs like the Civilian Conservation Corps. It put real guardrails on the banks to protect people's savings. It guaranteed the right for workers to unionize, and it built massive infrastructure projects, dams, bridges, roads that we still use today. And for the very first time, it created nationwide social safety nets.
This caused this profound psychological shift in the country. Suddenly, for millions of ordinary Americans, Washington, D.C. wasn't some distant, abstract place anymore. The federal government was now a real, tangible presence in their daily lives. It was an employer, a protector, a source of stability in a world that had completely fallen apart. But here's the big question. Was this change permanent? Was it a genuine revolution in how America was governed? Or was it just a temporary fix for a really, really bad time? This is where the debate among historians gets really heated.
So you kind of have two main camps here. On one side, you have the revolution argument. These folks say the New Deal permanently rewrote the social contract, the basic deal between citizens and their government. And they point to enduring programs like Social Security as proof. On the other side, you've got the temporary fix argument. They'll point out that the Supreme Court struck down some key reforms, and, maybe most importantly, that for all its promises, the New Deal left out millions of people, especially Black Americans and women. And honestly, both sides have some really compelling points.
And look, this isn't just some dusty old academic debate. The questions that were being fought over in the 1930s, they are very, very much alive today. They echo all through our modern political world. Just think about it for a second. Every time we argue about the proper size of government, or what the right balance is between individual responsibility and having social safety nets, we are literally continuing a conversation that the New Deal started. Even our debates about America's role in the world have roots back in this time, when the crisis pretty much forced the U.S. to give up its old isolationist habits. When you boil it all down, maybe the most profound, lasting legacy of the New Deal wasn't any single program. It was the way it completely reshaped what Americans expected from their government. It really did redefine what it means to be a citizen in a modern democracy.
And that really brings us to a final thought here. The story of the New Deal isn't over. It's kind of like a mirror. The way we choose to interpret that chaotic, transformative, and deeply contradictory time says an awful lot about the country we are right now, and maybe the one we're still trying to become. Thanks for joining me.